Ideas come to me like birds that I see in the corner of my eye, and I may try, or may not, to get a closer fix on those birds. The music of the merry-go-round sounded tired and very distant. If he had Miriam here in the boat with him, he would hold her head under the water with pleasure. The lights on the water silhouetted her head and shoulders. Never had he been so close. She faced him,
Is your name Miriam?
but he knew she could barely see him. His hands captured her throat, but he had her too tight for a scream. Good stories are made from the writer's emotions alone. Even if a suspense book is entirely calculated, there will be scenes which the writer has very likely known himself.
Like many other filmmakers, I was immediately drawn to Patricia Highsmith's writing. Almost all of her books were made into films. But when I started reading her unpublished diaries, I fell in love with Patricia Highsmith herself. Her very first diary entry is rather mysterious.
And here is my diary containing the body. The painfulest feeling is that of your own feebleness.
She had a strangeness. She picked strange ideas that I would never be able to think of. We met in the Village in New York. She found out I was a writer, and that interested her. She was not a forward person at all. She didn't assume that she was entitled to anything. And that was nice, in a way, because certainly she was very famous when I met her.
Strangers on a Train, your first book, Miss Highsmith. It was bought by a celebrated film director.
Yes. Hitchcock took an interest in it. Ever since I was 16 or 17, I get what is sometimes called creepy ideas.
Want to hear one of my ideas for a perfect murder? I may be old-fashioned, but I thought murder was against the law.
Your initial idea was these two men exchanging murders.
Yeah, that was the very initial idea, to be sure. These things just pop into one's head, in my opinion. I can never say why or when.
Highsmith's writing is so cinematic that the master of suspense finds the perfect somber universe for his film in it. But from then on, she struggles with the label of being a crime writer.
I'm always categorized in mystery and suspense. I never wrote a mystery in my life. I just write a story. And sometimes it has violence in it, or sometimes it has a murder, and therefore it's called crime.
She was better looking than I thought she would be. That's only because I'm a writer, and usually when we meet, I meet other writers, they're all sort of seedy, like I am. And she was different. We met in L's. It was called L's for lesbian, I guess. New York was loaded with gay bars. It was the 50s. I was very interested in gay places. And I would ask cab drivers. And I remember the cab driver said, "Oh, I know a place over in blah, blah." And he took me there. And the owner, a woman, said, "You never come here again, ever." And I said, "Why? It's just for me, isn't it?" She said, "It's for people with discretion. And you've just ruined it. You've given a cab driver the name of this place."
Gay bars are a dark door somewhere in Manhattan, where people wanting to go to a certain bar get off the subway a station before or after the convenient one, lest they be suspected of being homosexual.
Pat was more dedicated than any writer I'd ever met. I was curious to write a book about a writer like her. I wrote a book about her later on.
A handsome, dark-haired woman in a trench coat, drinking gin, stood at the bar. In the outside world, she was better known as Patricia Highsmith, author of Strangers on a Train. But in L's, there was the buzz that she was Claire Morgan. Pat was revered for her pseudonymous novel, Carol. It stood on every lesbian bookshelf and was for many years the only lesbian novel with a happy ending.
Do you think it was important for Pat to write a gay book?
Sure. Sure. I mean, she was gay, and if she was a writer, that's what she wanted to do, write about that life.
People were saying, write the same thing as Strangers, write it again, write something like that. And then I wasn't, at that moment, inspired to do so. I had a job in a very busy department store in New York. I was selling dolls. It was a Christmas rush hour. And a woman came in a fur coat who was rather striking.
The woman seemed to give off light. I felt odd and swimmy in the head, near to fainting. Their eyes met at the same instant. When she stood up, the woman was looking at her with the calm gray eyes that Therese could neither quite face nor look away from.
Where'd you learn so much about train sets?
Therese noticed the woman's perfume for the first time and wished with all her power to wish anything that the woman would simply continue her last words and say, "Why can't we see each other again?"
I like the hat.
There's a gift for everyone in our accessories department stream.
That night, I wrote out the whole story in my notebook.
Highsmith never meets the woman again. She feverishly writes down the plot of the story in her notebook. At the end, she adds notes of her own experiences from her private diaries.
Madly in love with my Carol. I want to spend all my time, all my evenings with her. Oh God, how this story emerges from my own bones. It flowed from my pen as from nowhere, beginning, middle, and end.
Although writing Carol is greatly liberating, Highsmith has doubts about publishing the book at all. Ultimately, she releases it under a pen name.
Anybody didn't use their own name on a gay book. It wasn't smart. I used Ann Aldrich and Vin Packer and any name, but not my own name ever. It was my family's name.
Your second book, I think, you published under a nom de plume. Why was that?
No particular reason.
Was it accepted by the publisher you sent it to?
It certainly was not. It was rejected by New York publishers, and they said no one can bring off this ending.
A lesbian book had to have an unhappy ending. Somebody who was living with a straight family and fell in love with a woman, and depending on your publisher, you were either very sorry or you had a nice time. But it didn't last. It couldn't last, and you realized it.
Why did Pat never publish a girl's book again?
A family, certainly mother. And, well, those two things were big enough to stop anybody.
They look, Tuffy Pat.
Oh, huh.
I think she's got a cigar in her mouth.
But that's so cute. She looked like a little boy there.
Yeah.
This is Granddaddy and Pat.
Her brother. Pat always called him brother. She never referred to him as her cousin. Dan and Pat grew up together.
Dan was a rodeo announcer. Our family has just been a ranching, rodeo, probably a basic Texas family. We spent every weekend growing up going to rodeos.
So who was more famous here? Her brother Dan or Pat?
In Texas?
Dan.
Oh, yeah. My granddaddy. Definitely my granddad.
Your childhood was a little unsettled, wasn't it?
Yes. My mother decided to get a divorce before I was born.
Pat's mother, Mary, divorced 9 days before Pat was born, and then married Stanley Highsmith.
I don't know if it was Mary that decided to move to New York, if her next husband decided that for them, but Pat's mother moved to New York and left Pat with whom I will refer to as Grandma.
My memories are very pleasant. They're the first 6 years of my life. My grandmother had what we call a backyard and a big lawn. Texas is definitely southern, so I have a sense of being a southerner rather than a northerner.
My character was essentially made before I was 6.
And 6 is exactly the age when Patricia's mother takes her to New York. She starts living with a stepfather she didn't know and a mother whom she only knew as a visitor to Texas.
According to my mother, she took turpentine to induce abortion and failed. According to my mother, still another story of hers, my father suggested that she have an abortion. I have asked her which story is true, but my mother does not like direct, simple questions and has not answered to date. I realize that both stories could be true, if the turpentine bit comes first.
I would bet anything that Mary was appalled at having a child.
The first person you look to love you unconditionally is your mother, and I don't know that Mary had that to give.
She dedicated 2 books to her mother. She had a mother love. And it was never returned. Her mother was a bitch.
Highsmith holds on to the unattainable love of her mother and states in her notebook,
I am married to my mother. I shall never wed another. I entered New York public school. I had just come from Texas and I was 6 years old. When my mother came to fetch me from school the first day, I was walking hand in hand with a little black boy. My grandmother was shocked when she heard of black children in my school, and she asked my parents to put me in some other school. I had not been to school before, not in the South, so I knew nothing of segregation.
Stop at 34th Street.
Today I saw 2 little girls sitting on the threshold of a door. The older was touching the other in some way, so when they saw me pass, they pulled their dresses over their knees. I knew that something had occurred that they would remember possibly all their lives. I know all this because the same thing has happened to me.
when did you realize that you fall in love with women?
In boarding school. But I think I always knew. I was always interested in women.
When I was 14, my mother said to me, "Why don't you straighten up and fly right? Are you a les? You're beginning to make noises like one." At 16, when rather notably I was uninterested in young men, my mother found a boyfriend for me, and he and I used to go dining and dancing. It was not pleasant for me to have to kiss him goodnight. It's like falling into a bucket of oysters.
I think she wished she wasn't that way because of her mother. She really had a thing about her, but it was not returned except in the snidest, meanest way possible. Well, if you like me so much, why don't you dress like a woman? What are you wearing pants for? You know, that kind of thing.
Pat's mother wants her to marry a friend she met while writing Strangers on a Train.
I attempted this sexual intercourse many times. I was going to the analyst at this time. I kept trying my very best to get into a condition to be married. To be plain, sexual intercourse to me is like steel wool in the face.
She went to a doctor and tried to change her ways. She tried. She did try. But I don't know anybody who didn't, including me. We all tried. But no luck.
It is a cloud of guilt feelings in my mother that causes almost all these difficulties. If my mother could lift them from her shoulders, then she and I would have no problems.
Do you feel like I do, that people who write have a wound somewhere, a blessure?
Most of the human race has a blessure. There's always some trauma in childhood. But not everybody chooses to be a writer.
Highsmith never tells her mother she wrote Carol. Before the novel sees the light of day, she escapes on her first trip to Europe. She travels extensively between the continents all her life.
I am determined to make a good thing of every catastrophe of my life. There will come a day when I shall voyage all around the earth, when I shall know the names and faces of men and women and children. I shall know the turns in many roads, and I shall have friends beyond number, and I shall still be lonely, as I am now, and I shall still desire then to know more faces and names and cities. I am the forever seeking. Mon amour pour les bateaux ne vieillit jamais. My love of ships never grows old.
Highsmith writes whole diaries in French, German, and Spanish. She lists the destinations she travels to on the front page of her notebooks. People, places, things are her recurring categories. Under Keime, the German word for germs, She notes the seeds of ideas that infect her with a new story.
Un des personnages les plus connus que vous ayez créé, c'est Tom Ripley.
Oui, ça a commencé il y a 52, à cause de quelqu'un que j'ai vu sur la plage. Il était en train de marcher, même à 6 heures du matin, sur la plage, avec un air troublé, quoi. Complètement tout seul, cet homme-là. Et moi, j'étais dans un hôtel, dans une chambre d'hôtel, très haut, en effet.
C'était où?
À Positano, en Italie. Et je n'ai jamais fait la connaissance de cet homme. Mais j'ai commencé à rêver, c'est tout.
I'm very happy working on my new book. I have never felt so sure. The sentences of this book go down on the paper like nails. It is a wonderful.
Amusé parce qu'il y avait les jeunes. Alors, ils passaient toutes les musiques, hein, le disco, les tangos, les machins. Hein. Alors, il y avait les jeunes, et puis il y avait les costumes 3 pièces, ce qu'on appelle les costumes 3 pièces, les vieilles lesbiennes qui venaient vous inviter pour les tangos, etc. On a Le lendemain matin, je lui ai proposé de la ramener en voiture. Et à partir de là, j'ai reçu 1, 2, des fois 3 lettres par jour. Dans sa folle jeunesse, aux États-Unis, elle était connue comme le loup blanc hein, dans toutes les boîtes lesbiennes de New York. Et elle avait un nombre de conquêtes impressionnant. Pat avait son propre festival des femmes. Ça, c'est sûr.
If my experience should be shut off, sexually, emotionally, I feel I should have enough. I have stretched an hour into eternity.
Millie Alford, who started American Airlines.
Yeah, the flight attendant school.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Aunt Millie who started the flight attendant school?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that Pat had an affair with her?
Shut up.
What'd she say?
Pat had an affair with Millie.
Shut
Wait a minute.
This just in.
How did that come out?
I'm trying to think of how that's
that got put-
related.
I think it was just a short thing.
Well, I think all of her affairs were pretty short.
They're related.
Yeah, but pretty distant, isn't it?
Well, they're
Let me get
cousins.
this put in my mind here.
I'm going to be thinking on that for a little while.
If you find out anything in any of this that says anything about any of us,
Burn it.
You burn it.
Was Pat a typical Texan woman?
No.
No.
Not in any shape or form.
My grandmother slept in a push-up bra and a wig the entire time. And my granddad were married.
And Granddaddy liked it that way.
Oh, and Granddaddy just thought she looked like $1 million.
You know, for the Coates men, they been and done a lot worldly and not, but a woman was supposed to act like a woman. A lady was supposed to act like a lady, and you didn't veer off of that.
Tabea has bowled me over, knocked me mentally on the floor. To laugh and have a beer with her, that seems all I want in life just now.
Nachtnehmen. Ganz verrückt war ich danach. Das waren meine schönsten Wochenende, wenn man erst morgens um 6 nach Hause kommt. In der Poel haben wir auch getanzt. Da waren wir auch mit der Pat Highsmith mal. Oder Transvestitenkneipen, wo auch der David Bowie hinging. Da musste besonders lachen, dass er da so live rumläuft. Sie hat sich hinten hingesetzt. Sie sagt, ich setze mich hin, wo die Normalen sitzen. Ne? Saßen Männer in Anzügen mit Krawatten. So KV und Mann sein, das ist ja auch ganz witzig. Oder eine Männerrolle spielen.
KV?
Käsefeder. Die liebe ich. Man trägt dann Männerkleidung. Und auch das Verhalten ist so. Man pflegt Männerfreundschaften, kann sich mit Männern messen. Man ist keine Hausfrau sozusagen. Man hat ab und zu eine Runde bezahlt im Lokal um die Ecke. Dann sagen die anderen immer, heute hat es ein Kleid an, da wird es nichts bezahlen. Und als Kesservater rein erstmal eine Runde für alle.
Wie hat man sich denn so gefühlt als Mann?
Oh, gut, stark.
Generalizing women are not important characters in your books.
It's hard for me to see women as a whole standing on their own feet. I still see them as sort of in relationship to a man, which is very curious because my mother had her own career since the age of 20. So I had in my childhood the image of a rather strong, independent woman, and yet I don't see them that way.
Why do you think Pat always wrote books with male protagonists?
Because they sell best. Women like to read about men, and men like to read about men.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux faire? Qu'est-ce que tu veux faire, petit escargot? Ah, t'étais fasciné par la spirale. Et au fond, les escargots, c'est hermaphrodite. C'est peut-être ça aussi qui la fascinait. Elle aimait bien les gens un peu half and half. Quand on regarde un petit peu Ripley, il n'est pas non plus si masculin que ça. Il a un côté un petit peu féminin aussi.
Signor Ripley? It's me.
Ripley, c'est elle.
Of course. Welcome back. Thank you.
C'est son alter ego.
There isn't any constant personality for the writer.
I like him.
Marge.
The face with which he meets his old friends or strangers. He is always part of his characters.
Oh, I like him.
Marge.
Ripley. Well, he's different. I depicted him as a person who doesn't feel guilt in the usual way. It's as if he's quite... just doesn't bother him, as it should. Or as it does in most people.
May I be the only one to say I really fell in love the day I first set eyes on you. May I...
What are you doing?
Oh, I was just amusing myself. Sorry.
I wish you'd get out of my clothes.
Ripley's sex life is very ambiguous. He's rather shy and a little bit homosexual, I would say.
Prossima stazione Sanremo.
What I wonder is, you don't admire Ripley, do you?
No, I certainly don't. But I think, well, I hope Ripley is amusing. People seem to, even in America, Ripley's rather popular.
But of course he is a killer.
Yes, but lately he kills only when he thinks it's right. You know, they say most murders take place within the family. I admit his first murder was a very cruel one.
The funny thing is, I'm not pretending to be somebody else, and you are. Boring. I've been absolutely honest with you about my feelings.
Who are you? Huh? Some third-class mooch? Who are you to tell me anything?
You give me the creeps. Can't move
shut up.
without dicky, 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 like a little girl all the time. Shut up.
I don't think that murder is my theme. If anybody wants to ask me, I would say guilt.
Guilt,
The
yes.
absence of the presence of guilt. Well, or you could also say the overwhelming desire to confess or put your foot in your own trap or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what have I done? You know, this can be a pain in the neck. Whereas Ripley is, he's very gay about what he's done. He doesn't give a damn. And gets away with it. Very cool.
So far, but what are you going to do with him?
He'll always get away with it.
Oh.
He will.
He will.
wanted to be out of New York. I didn't think she would take to that, but she did. She had a big black cat, and I had 4 cats. So the 7 of us were driving out to Pennsylvania. The cats were in boxes, crying away.
My girl, my woman, my wife in the country, beating my eggs and arranging my bed, arranging my hair just as she likes it. Wood fires and twigs, apples and figs, no telephone, no guests. Only our ecosystem of work, lovemaking, and who will cook today.
She was easy to love, let's put it that way. Even though it was a sin to have a female lover, it was a good sin. Two women living together, everybody would understand that they combined their salaries because women didn't make much. Nobody ever thought that they were doing it for sex. Some kids used to come over to the house and talk. They were neighbors' kids. They came to our back door, and we were making Sunday dinner, and we were kissing. Boy, did they run. They ran home so fast, and they never came back. In a small town, that carries a lot of weight for gossip. There's a lot of people that say, "What you say? Say it again. You saw them kissing?" Pat collected these diaries, and there was one missing, and she thought I had it.
She was tipsy enough to tell me she had read my diaries, causing me to stop keeping one. Until now, I suppose.
I might have, because I'm, not above that. But there was not an opportunity much. She was also like a cat. She walked and you didn't hear it.
The breach of trust prompts Highsmith to write her more private thoughts in her notebooks from this moment on. All her life, she is worried that somebody could read her diaries. She places warnings and curses on their first pages.
The first thing in the morning, Pat was working. She always had orange juice in the morning. And one morning I found it on the table. I lifted it up to take it into her. And she said, "Ah, what have you got there?" And I said, "Your drink." And she said, "Taste it." And it was loaded with gin. So all these mornings that she was down there working and doing things, it was filling up on gin. I didn't think somebody that wrote so well could put themselves in such a vulnerable position.
After a most pleasant and successful dinner, MJ ran up the stairs saying, "You're drunk. I don't want another fight, Pat." We slept in separate rooms. These days swim all one into the other. She is afraid of my drinking. I am terrified of her temper.
I said, "This is impossible. We can't live together." At the end, we had the usual breakup. And then she moved out.
Did she have high expectations for love?
I think we all do. When we fall in love, we have high expectations. That's what it's about.
We must think of ourselves as a fertile land on which to draw. And if we do not, we grow rotten like an unmilked cow. And if we leave something unexploited, it dies within us wasted.
If you write, it is a form of analyzing experience. But one's personal experience is rather limited. And even if you have a couple of divorces or something, it is limited. But if you use your imagination, it's really unlimited.
Highsmith tries to write another girl's book, as she calls her lesbian novels, in which she weaves her personal love biography from her diaries.
The object of this book is to depict the mature woman who cannot keep herself from practicing homosexuality. It is the story of her own greenness, her selfishness, her idealism, her maturity.
Highsmith doesn't finish the manuscript and will never publish any other girl's book again. After a visit to Texas, she is afraid of being exposed as the author of Carol. Her mother has told the family preacher about the secret book. She writes a letter to her stepfather.
I never presented that book to my mother. She found it because I lent you and her my flat. Would it not occur to any idiot that if a person writes a book under another name, that person wishes to keep the fact secret from the public? But oh no, not my mother. I often wonder what my mother thinks is so wrong with me. I have not been in prison. I do not take drugs. I have no broken marriages, no illegitimate children. I earn a good living. I am even in Who's Who, the International, published in London.
Come on, everybody.
I don't remember ever hearing her mother say, "Have you talked to Pat? Have you heard from Pat? Do you know when Pat's coming home?" Mm-mm.
Those two people in my life were never even seen in the same room together.
Well, that's right. That's
so
right.
putting them together as a mother and daughter, and why isn't she caring for this one, that would never have crossed my mind.
Highsmith hires a lawyer. She cuts all legal ties to her mother and gets herself disinherited.
I would like to separate myself from my mother from me, legally speaking, from any obligation whatever. It would certainly be a great relief to me, and I hope to her.
Pat y allait assez souvent à Londres. Elle rencontrait cette femme.
It took me years to find one of the most important women in Highsmith's life. By the time I found out who she was, the woman had just passed away. I will keep her secret and call her Caroline.
Cette femme, il ne faut absolument pas dire le nom. Je crois que j'ai même jamais vu de photo. pas, t'en parlais beaucoup, presque à chaque fois.
The color comes and goes in her cheeks. Her brown eyes look at me directly. And brown is absolutely the last color I would think of in attempting to describe her. Cream, pink, even white. And what is the color of warmth?
Elle était mariée, même avec des enfants, je crois. Et je ne sais même pas à quoi elle ressemble, cette femme. Je ne sais pas du tout. Mais apparemment, ça a été une histoire importante dans sa vie.
Her married lover manages to steal away to meet secretly in Paris for a few days.
A necklace of verses I will make you, one by one, strung on a brief time, a thread of time to remember these few days, to keep these few days forever. Paris struck us like a light, and dazzled, we groped along the stones of Notre Dame, seeing with our fingertips. Beauty, perfection, completion, all achieved and seen. Death is the next territory, one step to the left. Can I kiss you in some doorway? Back home, I am absolutely sick for her. And I must summon up every bit of courage and determination that I possess in order to carry on alone. C's letters are as if she were making love to me when she wrote them. I am drunk and drugged on them and on writing her. There is no use in making any further effort to live without her. I cannot. And in all my 41 years, I have never said or written this about anyone else before. This means England.
This is the first time Highsmith moves to another country for a woman. She buys a cottage in an English village close to her lover.
No sleep. Quite wonderful to come to London. See in her dressing gown to open the door. As I wrote this evening in my 26th notebook, in which the last city and country I am in is Caroline. All I could wish, leisure, Caroline, cats, the sea. I am divinely happy with her, as if I lived in a dream world, and yet it is real.
Harge, what's wrong?
Nothing. Does there need to be a problem for me to visit my wife?
Two letters from C. Her difficulties of leading a double life on the grounds that she was physically sick. I know she wants to tell her husband.
How do you know my wife?
Harge, please.
Paris should be kept quiet, no matter what. I worry about her strong sense of convention. I do not know if C can suddenly or even slowly take the complete alteration a life with me must bring. We could be endlessly discreet, but without a husband, could she be happy and face the world? The affair with the married woman. One may think for a while that one is satisfied with the small amount of time together, but one is not satisfied with taking second place emotionally. I miss C so terribly. I want her in my days, my bed, my life. C would prolong forever her sadistic relationship with me. It is not a relationship. It has no flow, no joy, but she would not break it off, ever. But I did. The very worst time of my entire life. In Paris, when I began to take pleasure in existence for existence's sake, it was the beginning of the end for me. Getting ready to sell the house in England. It is a negative thing, perhaps like an abortion. I may not be capable of love. I want something romantic, perhaps not definite. I repeat the pattern of mother's semi-rejection of me. The taste of death is sometimes in my mouth these solitary evenings. Will I in 5 years, 2 years, 1, smash my teeth again? And curse what I hesitate to call my fate, my pattern? Mornings are frantic like all morning. Exhausted by afternoon, I have completed my chores, and am faced with myself and my not-self again. Then I work. I work like a worm in the earth. I work like a termite fashioning a tunnel, a bridge. I work for a future I can no longer see. Decision of today, not to ever share a house with anyone again.
Cette romancière américaine très célèbre a choisi de vivre dans une petite commune française, à Moncourt. Pourquoi avez-vous choisi de vivre en France, Patricia Highsmith?
C'est très tranquille. C'est agréable ici.
Les personnages de vos livres ont beaucoup de contact avec les gens, tout ça. Mais vous vivez seul ici. Et...
Oui, je peux penser quand je suis seule et les idées arrivent. Quand je suis parmi les autres, très souvent, je me sens tendue, trop tendue. Après ça, je suis fatiguée.
Vous ne trouvez pas qu'une maison pleine de monde avec des gens qu'on aime bien, c'est bien aussi?
Oui, si on les trouve. Si on trouve les gens qu'on aime bien, oui.
Il y avait un mur tout autour. C'est ça qu'elle aimait. C'est exactement pareil. J'ai même l'impression que c'est la même couleur de volet.
Ah oui?
Ouais, je crois. Et là, la maison, elle est toute... la maison des Ryan, toute enfouie dans le... C'était déjà comme ça, enfouie dans la verdure.
Oui?
Ouais.
Où est-ce qu'elle écrivait?
Ici. Celle-ci.
Every poet knows that the best images come when the mind does not think too intently, when it is occupied with doing something else, something mechanical. Inspiration and ideas come from the subconscious, but the subconscious must be given free rein.
Elle disait toujours qu'elle faisait des pauses dans la journée où elle faisait du daydreaming et elle arrivait même à les orienter. Ce silence, extraordinaire.
That's very important for you, to work, living alone.
Oh, yes.
Why?
Because of the silence and because of the not having to talk.
The profound indignity of being interviewed. Funny the way it eats you slowly.
I feel like a patient on a table with some kind of disease. You know, the doctor says, take off all your clothes. It becomes very disturbing.
Okay, I ask this stupid question. Are you happy?
Yes, mainly. Yes. Why not?
Writing, of course, is a substitute for the life I cannot live, am unable to live.
By now, so many of Highsmith's books have been made into films that she is invited to chair the jury of the Berlin Film Festival.
Pat Highsmith hat sich auf dem deutschen Filmfest umgeschaut und so haben wir uns kennengelernt. Damals habe ich die Filmproduktion gehabt mit der Ulrike Oettinger. Da habe ich den Kostüm mitgemacht und habe mitgespielt und am Drehbuch mitgearbeitet.
Ich habe gelesen, dass ihr den Ripley verfilmen wolltet, mit dir in der Hauptrolle?
Das war mal im Gespräch, dass man das verfilmen könnte, auch mit einer Frau. Und dann haben es in der Zeit andere angekauft, weil wir die Idee hatten, einen Piratenfilm zu drehen.
I fell in love not with flesh and blood, but with a picture. A sailor cap, the crazy mustache, the little bird perched on the girl sailor's right shoulder, and the puzzled and somewhat serious eyes. If I would touch you, maybe you would shatter or dissolve, like a dream one tries too hard to remember.
Wie hast du denn gemerkt, dass Pat sich in dich verliebt hat?
Das ist schon mehr als Freundschaft, das könnte schon fast sein Liebe. Hat sie im Brief mal geschrieben. Ja, wir haben ja viel hin und her geschrieben eigentlich. Ich wusste immer, was sie machte oder wenn sie einen neuen Verlag nimmt oder wenn sie ein Buch verkauft hat.
All of Highsmith's experiences with Tabea, flow into her fourth Ripley novel, The Boy Who Followed Ripley. Like Tabea and Pat, Ripley and the teenage boy in the book visit Peacock Island.
If I were only a good poet, able to distill all this into a clear and beautiful little sphere, like a gem one could see through, polished, something to keep, small in my pocket, something to look at that wouldn't hurt.
Jetzt schlägt er eins. Beautiful. Königlich großartig. Ist das schön? Pat hat mal gefragt, ob ich nach Mocourt kommen würde. Da habe ich gedacht, das muss ja nicht sein. In diesem einsamen Haus da in Frankreich. Für mich vielleicht ein bisschen langweilig.
Only a dream, only a dream of glory beyond the dark stream. How peaceful the slumber, how happy the waking, for death is only a dream. Oh mother, the dark, the light came at last and filled me with peacefully gleam. It's true, they say it's cloud overcast, for death is only a dream.
No memory of pleasure and pain amidst years of a love that was great, but which ended sadly.
Elle venait de rompre avec la fameuse Tabea. Et elle a dit, oui, je suis triste à mourir. Elle pouvait plus du tout écrire. Je crois qu'elle oui, elle pouvait plus dormir. Enfin, elle était vraiment très, très, très mal.
For the first time in her life, Highsmith is unable to write. After having started the new Ripley novel inspired by Tabea, she falters after 50 pages.
It's December 6th, 1976. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. I know less and less about who I am or who anybody else is.
The difference between dream and reality, that's the real hell. Would you agree?
Yes, I certainly would, and I wrote that sentence years ago, before I ever thought of writing this book, because I feel it myself. It's a disappointment in what one wishes. But in a way, it's normal, I think. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that one becomes insane, because I think almost everybody
has hopes about either their work or about their marriage or something that doesn't quite come true.
Elle m'a écrit qu'elle m'aimait bien. For the lightness you brought in my life. Et elle a mis entre parenthèses, c'est pour ça quand je dis I mean by lightness, absence of heaviness. Elle a dit que c'était grâce à moi qu'elle avait pu recommencer à écrire et qu'elle avait retrouvé le goût de vivre. Et elle a fini son livre. J'ai eu l'impression de me retrouver un peu dans Le Garçon. C'était la relation justement entre Ripley et ce jeune garçon. C'était différent des Ripley de d'habitude. Il y avait un petit côté mignon. Il n'y avait pas le côté cynique de Ripley. Il est un peu melted down. Et elle a décidé de me dédier le fameux Sur les pas de Ripley. Elle m'a envoyé cette lettre pour me demander qu'est-ce que j'accepterais comme dedication. Et bien sûr, j'ai accepté tout mon buffet. And she was very happy with that. C'était compliqué parce que j'avais rencontré quelque temps avant l'ami avec qui je vis toujours. Donc j'étais entre deux histoires. Je ne pouvais pas l'ignorer complètement. Je ne pouvais pas. Parce qu'elle avait quelque chose de très touchant. C'est très compliqué à expliquer, en fait.
I imagine tomorrow your letter will say, "Well, Pat, nice to have known you for a little bit of time, but we had better stop seeing each other. But you must not feel that I shall feel sad because of this. It is not your fault, and you must not think about it."
Son départ en Suisse a été assez dramatique. Son histoire d'impôt. Il y a eu une descente de police chez elle. Elle a été tellement blessée d'avoir été considérée comme une délinquante qu'elle ne voulait plus rester en France.
Life in Switzerland. It seems to me that people could be much influenced by the lack of sunlight. However, I happen to like calmness because I am nervous inside.
Elle en parlait souvent, qu'elle supportait plus les hivers en Suisse. C'était des mois et des mois sans soleil, qui faisait froid.
I would feel that I got myself into a trap, and an unhappy one. In those moments, I remember mon cours and its sunlight, which I shall never forget.
Only weeks after Highsmith sells her house in France, she wants to buy it back. But she doesn't succeed, so she stays and builds herself a new house.
Elle était très très fière de sa maison. Cette maison ultra moderne, mais elle avait l'air heureuse comme tout avec ça. Jamais de ma vie j'aurais pensé qu'elle aurait un jour une maison comme ça. Le bunker.
It must be strange to enter a house and begin living there, and fix it up, knowing it is the last home you'll ever live in. I carry old memories around like a heavy suitcase. I wish I'd never met this one and that, but I have, and I don't forget. Spent 2 hours of reading old diaries of mine. My life is a chronicle of unbelievable mistakes. Things I should have done, and vice versa.
By now, Highsmith makes fewer and fewer entries in her diaries, and they start to contain rants and prejudice against Jews, Arabs, and blacks, as if she were returning to the racism of her beloved grandmother in Texas.
I live my life backwards. My envy turned to hatred, and the hatred to contempt. Now you, who knew a freedom I never did, wonder at my bitterness. Resentment, you say, I am full of, yet resentment was my second emotion, one I knew well before I knew its name.
I know less and less about who I am, or who anybody else is.
Writing is the only way to feel respectable, Highsmith once said. Already seriously ill with leukemia, she is making plans for another Ripley novel.
The months have been somewhat angst-filled. The mental fear needs 1,000 words to describe. It is as though death is right there, suddenly, and yet one feels no pain. One is talking in a calm voice to friends and doctors.
The last chapter of her famous love story has remained open. Nearly 40 years after its first appearance, Highsmith decides to reveal her authorship and republish Carol under her own name.
A book like Carol, why it's so interesting now to people who know your work very well, was not simply that it was a gay novel, but it was also a very affirmative gay novel. It had a happy end.
Yes, the characters for once didn't commit suicide or fall in the gutter or whatever or cut their wrist was a great one. They at least were going to try to make something of their lives. It doesn't say that they will at the end, but at least they'll try.
Now, in retrospect, that's particularly unusual for you. You're not a writer known for your happy endings. It looks for a long time as if the ending is not going to be happy, and then quite suddenly it turns and the two women come back together again. Was that at all a conscious choice to make it a happy ending?
I think so, because yes, it was a conscious. I wanted that, definitely.
Highsmith works until the very end on a new gay novel, this time openly. She dies only weeks before it appears. It ends with her last published words. The funny thing was, Ricky, in a quiet way, felt happy.
At dawn after my death, hours before, The sunlight will spread at 7 o'clock as usual on these trees which I know. Greenness will burst. Dark green shadows yield to the cruel, benign, indifferent sun, and weeping for me on the morning of my death. The trees will rest in breezeless dawn, blind and uncaring. The trees that I knew, that I tended.